Okay, so when does a year ever go as planned? It really never does. And there were good ways that 22 went as planned. There were good ways it didn't go as planned. There are ways that I'm sure God is orchestrating things that were just a bummer about this year. And overall, we're just really grateful with where we are. I'm excited to talk through 2022 with you guys and also to vision cast a little bit for 2023 with Elisha. This is always a fun time of year, just looking at what God has done and then kind of projecting where you hope his vision is and you hope that your heart is aligned with his. But then it is fun to see how he works in spite of that and the plot twists he throws in along the way. And so we just hold it all very loosely. But this is going to be a fun conversation. I want to thank you guys real quick. We hit 1,000 reviews on iTunes. This has been our goal since the beginning of starting the podcast. So Elisha and I are wondering if we should just quit now, you know? We hit 1,000. But you guys, there's nothing we can do to get reviews or ratings. You guys have to do that out of the generosity of your own heart and take your own time to do that. I know that is a big ask to make of you. And so the fact that 1,006 of you took the time over since we've been recording this podcast to go in and write encouraging words. And even like the 3 of you that took the time to write negative reviews, like you helped get us to 1,000 too. So I can't say I'm bummed about it. We're just really, really grateful, Elisha and I. So this intro is getting really long, but thank you from the bottom of our hearts. What a way to kick off 2023 with the Now That We're a Family podcast.
The Now That We're a Family podcast.
Oh, Katie, thank you for that introduction. I tell you what.
Elisha's like, I asked her to do the intro. She's never going to stop talking.
You know, it's funny because we used to record the introductions after we were done recording because we would have a little bit more context for what the episode was about. And now I feel like our introduction, it really forces us down a direction. Kind of like keeps us.
Do you feel like I forced you in a direction with my intro?
A little bit, yeah. But
okay, well, we can change the direction. You can change the direction of it.
No, we're on the same page. I think we want to talk a little bit about 2022 and how it unfolded for us and how it kind of closed out. Because we took a week off from the podcast, which is rare. We rarely take weeks off from the podcast.
Yeah, I'd say maybe once or twice a year.
Yes, that's exactly right. And so I feel like there's a little catch up that we need to do. And then more importantly, I think, actually, no. Just dive. Where were we going to start?
Where are we going to start?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I do have to say I am excited about today's episode, and it is really fun to be sitting down recording a podcast for you guys because it's been like a 3-week break for us. We had a few episodes recorded, like pre-recorded, and I was pretty burnt out at the time of our last episode. I don't know if you guys could tell or not. So it's been really fun to just have like a refreshing break, a total reset, and be coming back to be able to talk. And honestly, just having a break from hearing my own voice because that gets to be a little much.
No, I can hear your voice more and more and more. But I know what you're saying. When you're hearing your own voice, that becomes pretty fatiguing.
Yeah. Like Elisha was editing in the house and I was like, I can't hear myself again. Like you just have to go outside or somewhere.
Yeah, put the headphones on.
Go somewhere else. So yeah, it's really fun. I don't know where you want to start. This podcast was kind of Elisha's vision. We didn't really do our typical end of year wrap up podcast this year. Just because we had so much going on this December. So should I bring out your dream board?
Oh,
should I present it? We could start there. It's staring me in the face.
No.
I think so. Do you want to hold it up? You want me to?
Well, first, I do want to say that I think that we can genuinely say that 2022 was the best year of our entire life.
Okay. Yeah.
You think that's true?
Okay. I feel like this at the end of every year. I look back and I go, that was a really hard year, but it probably was the best year we've ever had.
Yeah, that's my perspective, and something that I think is crucial to do at the end of every year, and really like at the conclusion of every week or month, or just like at the closing of a season, is before you start planning, is to really take time to look back and reflect and acknowledge the blessings that the Lord gave you and that he bestowed upon you, his faithfulness, just the good things in your life. Count the wins in your life. Really, you should do that, I feel like, before you plan in general, because we're such forward-thinking people. Humans are. We're always thinking of the next thing. Like, on a base level, it's like the next meal or the next shift at work or the next gathering. We're always thinking about the next thing. And then it's easy to turn that into thinking about the next quarter or the next child or the next whatever thing. And if we are in that state all the time, one, we become extremely ungrateful people because we fail to stop and acknowledge all that the Lord has done for us. And then we also fail to actually grow in confidence and be able to make decisions and make plans for the future based off of areas that we've grown in. Because when you acknowledge areas that you've grown in, then that gives you confidence and you're able to make decisions for the future and commitments for the future from a place of confidence rather than insecurity or fear or scarcity. And being able to make decisions out of confidence lends to there being such better investments of your time. Any good investment requires future thinking and long-term thinking. And in order to have a positive outlook on the future and an optimistic outlook on the future, I think you really have to first start with acknowledging the wins of your recent past or of your long-term past. And you can call them personal wins, or you can call them just the blessings of the Lord, because they can be both. I think it's the Lord blesses us, and to fail to acknowledge those things is ungrateful, I think, and then it does ourselves a disservice in planning our future.
Elisha, I'm so glad you said that, because it reminds me of in the Screw Tape Letters, I think it's the Screw Tape Letters, where C.S. Lewis is saying, he has like the head demon or whatever, saying, get the Christian to focus on, or get the human to focus on the future, because the future is where they're the least satisfied. The future is where nothing's actually has come to fulfillment yet. The future is the least like eternity.
Yes, it's also where you're the most fearful.
Yes, you're the most fearful. You're the most anxious. You're the most just unhappy. And so it's kind of funny. The present is where we can make a very rich, fulfilling life. And then the past is where we can look back and see God's faithfulness and count those wins and see, to have that 20/20 hindsight of, oh, wow, he has brought us through so many things. See how he worked all these things together when we just thought it was a giant pile. And so I just think that's really important. Okay, before we get into this episode 2, tell us about the Growth Initiative. I totally forgot to do that at the beginning, but that is going to be opening up.
Yeah, let's see. When is this?
Week,
what's
right?
the day that this podcast is going out? It's going out a week from when this is going to open up for enrollment, a week from when this episode comes out.
And it's only going to be open for enrollment for 7 days.
That's right.
The Growth Initiative is a little bit different from, January?
Let me find the date here.
Yeah, okay.
So enrollment will open up on January the 10th, Tuesday the 10th, and it will close on January the 17th.
And the Growth Initiative is different from all our other programs because it's live. There's 6 live calls. And this is kind of like you're only opening until next time it opens up. It's not like the Get It All Done Club or something where it's just kind of an evergreen product.
Yes.
So that's, I wanted to make sure we got that out there. Can you give a little,
synopsis?
Yeah.
Sure. Before I do, though, and I don't want to lose this thought, I think you have to, when you start acknowledging your past and when you look at your past wins, there has to be these guidelines, because oftentimes, when you brought up the Screw Tape Letters, I was reminded of this. Oftentimes we can just dwell on the negative things of our past, and we can live in guilt, in regret, and in condemnation. And of course, we know that in Christ Jesus, there is no condemnation. Conviction is one thing. Being convicted, being convinced of something that was wrong, you can learn from it, that's a good thing. But living in condemnation is not what Christians do, and it's not of Christ. So when you look at your past, I think it's so crucial to have that Philippians 4 filter, so to speak. Whatsoever things are true and lovely and of good report. How does that all go, actually?
Whatsoever things are good, lovely, honest, true, of virtue, good virtue, and a good report.
Yes.
Something.
Yes.
Along those, think on those things.
He goes, think on those things. And so I think that is good to be obedient to that passage, to God's word, when he tells us how to think and how to reflect. When you go and you look and you say, okay, wait a second, what happened in 2022 that was good and lovely and worthy of praise and virtue? And you look back through that lens and you thank the Lord and you acknowledge those wins and move forward from there. Because oftentimes, I know for me, measuring backwards used to be the worst thing, and looking backwards used to be the worst thing I could do. Because
you get so depressed.
I would look at it through the lens of just 100% criticism on myself, and ultimately it was prideful and ungratefulness towards God. And we can almost make it seem virtuous to be hard on yourself, when in reality, what you're being is, first off, anytime you're self-centered, that's not of the Lord, and two, you're being ungrateful to God. And gratitude is an attribute of Christians. It's one of the fruits that defines Christians as being thankful in all things. In whatever circumstances we find ourselves in, being able to say, well, thank you, Lord, you are so good. I can't believe I'm your child. You purchased me. You forgave me of my sins. And so anyways, I just wanted to add that to anybody that was
I'm glad you did. I'm glad
going to go measure backwards.
Yeah, and be like, what on earth? Nothing went well. That's naturally where our minds go.
Yes.
But in Christ, that's not what we're called to focus on, because he has a purpose in everything. Mm-hmm. And like you said, thankfulness, it's really having a thankful spirit or not. Mm-hmm. And being thankful for where the Lord's brought us. Okay, so tell me about the Growth Initiative real quick.
Yes, the Growth Initiative is a 6-week live program. So we're going to be having 6 live calls. The calls happen once a week, and they're an hour coaching calls, and we work through a different tool every week. And what I've done over the last couple of years is I've taken some of the business tools that I've received and some of the business coaching that I've gone to, and I've really adapted those to leadership within the home and leading yourself as a Christian man. And I've found that it is so helpful when I take these business concepts and these strategies and these systems and these frameworks and these mindsets, and I adopt it and I put it to practice in the home or in my personal life. The fruit is so abundant in my life. And I found there are so many men from last year from doing it. We had about 100 men go through the program last year through the 2 different sessions that we did. And I couldn't believe how many like-minded men there were that just all said the same thing. They were like, man, I'm married. I love my kiddos. I've got my career and I'm doing well. I go to church regularly, but I'm having a hard time getting momentum in these things that are really important to me, feeling like I'm making traction or having quantifiable wins in regards to leading myself and leading my family and being a good husband. And I was like, boy, what a cool opportunity to not only keep myself accountable to grow in those areas, but to also create a community of men and to use these tools to grow, in my mind, in areas that are far more important than business, that are far more important than your career. And so, yeah, it's really for any men that it fits into that category, being a husband, a father, or maybe there were a few husbands that were expecting their first child that went through the program, and they really want to find a way to get their practical life in order. So their health, their finances, their effectiveness within their communities, and to see some quantifiable progress in those areas.
Yeah. So we'll have a link down below.
Yeah, we'll put it down below.
We'll put it down below. And you could still jump on the wait list. It's best if you jump on the wait list now instead of wait until the launch opens, because there is a series of emails that kind of walks you through what the Growth Initiative is, and it gives you a lot more insight into the program. So if you want more information, that's probably the best way to get it. Or you could go to nowthatwe'refamily.com/growth initiative, and we'll have that link down below too.
Yeah, and something that I've found really encouraging for me is, I would say over the last year, Katie, my why has changed from the time I started this program. Mm-hmm. And I started this program really thinking I need to find some motivation in these areas so I can have more personal fulfillment, or I can see more. It was really me focused ultimately, thinking like, okay, I want to implement these tools in my life so I can see some progress in these areas that matter to me personally. And the tools certainly helped me do that. And they helped all the men in the program grow in the areas of life that were most important to them. But it's funny how even though the areas of my life in which I want to grow have not changed, the reasoning for it has changed. And so what's cool though, is I was reviewing the tools earlier this week. I was like, man, these are just as effective and just as useful, regardless of what your motivation is for wanting to grow in these areas. I do think the motivation matters. And I think going to the Lord and being contrite before him and realizing that he is like our master and commander, he has lordship over us. He gets to define what our priorities are and what our passions should be in life. When you're able to do that and then he defines those things, I think that we can really then find practical ways to grow in those areas. And I know for me personally, when those areas were kind of defined for me, I felt a lack of structure and help and support and systems within maybe just your everyday Christian church, which we love our church and we love our community, but there wasn't like this specific structure for growing in these areas of life that were really important to me.
Well, yeah, I think we're going to talk about this more, but just like the feminization of the church, it's really been set up to not necessarily encourage the male, right? Like masculinity.
Yeah, and I don't even know, like you said, we've been wanting to talk about this, and I mean, I
don't know. We should maybe say that.
Yeah, because I feel like there's
a can of worms.
that statement right there has been, from my point of view, has been spoken for years now. I remember being like 11 years old with my family sitting in churches and talking about the masculinity crisis within the church. You know, it's just kind of like, what happened to masculinity? Or we need more masculine men, or the church is so feminized. And so I've heard that for so long, and I still continue to hear it even more so now. And everybody's like, yeah, you're right. And then I feel like I don't hear a solution to it.
But I mean, you've come up with some stuff that have been encouraging.
Yeah, and it's
even the fact that I don't like your father-son thing that you do right now.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm a huge advocate of that.
Do you want to tell them what that is?
See, this is why we got to wait to do the intro afterwards, Katie, because then let's wait. Can we? I feel like we should.
Okay. Yes. We'll wait until next week.
There are some thoughts that I want to collect, and
you have a lot of thoughts on this.
Yeah, and a ton of notes. Yeah, and so I kind of.
Okay, so do you want to talk about your why that has changed?
Sure. Just to finish up that thought.
Yeah.
Last year, when I was going through these tools for myself that are part of the growth initiative, it was in the context of like looking for fulfillment in my personal life. And since that time, I think the Lord's just revealed to me how necessary it is to look at what God has for my life and to see that as a true Christian duty. I think that word duty used to be, I was like, that's not a part of the Christian vernacular, like we are not bondage to anything. We are free in Christ, and there's nothing that we can earn. Like the definition of grace, or I should say grace by definition, is like there is no earning or working for it or duty in it. And so I was like you can't use that term. And I think that, and again, this is a thought that I don't want to make any huge statements regarding soteriology or just like the Christian life in general. But it's like, yeah, we are saved 100% by grace. But as citizens of God's family, of his world, his kingdom, I think there are Christian duties, and it doesn't affect our righteous standing before God one iota, one bit. You can't get more righteous than Jesus Christ, and his is the righteousness that we have as Christians. But I also think we've got duties as Christian men, and it's really, these tools have taken on a whole new meaning to me as I look at being a husband and being a father, being a Christian in our community, being a blood-bought son of God, and realizing, boy, these titles that I've been given by God, ambassador, husband, father, son, like with each one of those titles come responsibilities and I think a duty to walk in a way that is worthy of the calling, but of those titles as well. And does this affect my standing before God? No, but I do think that it can bring great pleasure to my Heavenly Father when you walk in the way that he created you to walk. And so I'm approaching this next growth initiative for me personally, much more through that lens. Again, the tools work regardless of what your motivations are. But I'm like more fired up than ever about it.
Yeah, I think you were explaining to me, it's more of it being viewing these things, these responsibilities as duties rather than optional has really changed your perspective and placed more weight and fulfillment on your desire to grow in these areas.
Yes.
Instead of like, well, I can be healthy or I cannot. And it's just kind of up to me. Is that a goal I want to have or is it not? Or,
yeah. It's like I can be a romantic husband or I can just keep staying married to my wife. Right. Like I think that there's a lot of accountability within the church in regards to like not sinning, not doing big, you're kind of like, hey, don't look at pornography. Don't cheat on your wife. Don't get drunk. And those are big things. That's good. Like we need accountability in those areas, but there doesn't seem to be much accountability in regards to growing as I feel we're called to grow as men in loving our wives and in raising up our children. Anyways, yeah, those are fragmented thoughts.
Okay. So do you want to hand your dream board over here?
Whoa.
Let's talk about your dream board. So, okay.
Well, this was not the plan. I feel like
this is my plan.
No, yeah, you really, because I thought you were going to talk about the year and I was going to
I'm going to talk about your dream board.
No, I want to hear first about your year. And then, because I've
don't
talked
pull
way
that
too
out.
much.
They're going to just stare at that the whole time while I'm talking.
Okay.
I don't want to compete with your dream board, okay?
Yeah, so if anybody on YouTube, wow.
Elisha, get the dream board out till I'm done talking.
Okay, so wait, so we're not doing the dream board.
You just said you wanted to hear from me. If you want to hear from me, don't put a big cardboard sign full of pictures in front of your face.
All right. Go
Okay.
ahead.
We're going to talk about Elisha's dream board here. Clearly, that is what I'm most excited about. But I wanted to touch on dream boards real quick. Maybe we should have another name for them. I don't know. Because there is a lot, if you Google dream board or you look up YouTube for this, there's a lot of unhealthy mindsets that go around dream boards and manifestation and all that kind of stuff. A lot of new age stuff comes in. And so I just wanted to say that even though Elisha and I make these dream boards at the beginning of the year, it's basically just instead of writing our goals out in a list, we put them in picture form because the picture form, it captures an emotion, a feeling, and is more kind of, a picture says 1,000 words. So instead of saying a little sentence like, I want to do this, it gives you this kind of North Star to continue moving towards. And when we lose focus in the middle of the year or at the end of the year, it can help when we look at that board, be like, that's right. I wanted to feel this way. I wanted to do these things. And I like how it's a dream board because it's a little less. Well, I love this statement. Who said it, Elisha? There are no unrealistic goals. There's just unrealistic time frames. And do you remember who said it?
I mean, we heard it from your dad, so let's just give your dad the credit for it.
Yeah, he got it from someone else, but it is
maybe, and maybe it's his.
He did. But yeah, we are grateful that you shared that with us. And so basically, oftentimes we could be bummed out that we made progress towards a goal, but we didn't hit the actual goal when it's like, save X amount of dollars or whatever. Maybe we saved half that amount. And then maybe the next year, growth isn't linear. It can go in spurts and sometimes you go down, sometimes you grow really fast. And so the dream board helps our year feel more like, wow, we see the growth we did in these areas instead of looking at a checklist on a piece of paper, maybe New Year's resolutions or something like that. I mean, like I failed. So that is why Elisha and I have dream boarded for the last few years. I'm going to be showing my dream board and breaking it all down for 2023 on a live call that I'm doing with the girls in the Get It All Done Club. About once a quarter, I get on live. That's about as often as I can do it. And we're going to go over our dream boards together, and then we're going to break up into mini pods online and get more specific about our goals for the new year. So I'm excited about that. That's next week. If you are in the Get It All Done Club, don't forget to be in the clubhouse and register for that event. It's going to be Thursday, January 12th.
Yes.
In the evening, I think 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We are so prepared.
Yeah.
So
Double check. It might be 6:30. Did you guys decide on 6?
I thought it was 6, but I
6?
don't know.
Okay.
Maybe it's 6:30. It gets a little late if it's 6:30 and
Yeah, for East Coasters.
yeah. Anyways, it's going to be in there. So go to the clubhouse and you'll see the actual dates. Lauren has all that figured out. She's a lot more organized than I am. And then, but we kind of want to talk through Elisha's dream board this year, because almost every year I've shared, okay, this is what's happened on my dream board and stuff like that. And honestly, with the miscarriage and stuff, and with a lot of things that happened in my year personally, even the Lord just like totally changing my heart halfway through the year to be like, I really just want to homeschool and raise exceptional little human beings. And I really just turned away from any kind of growth happening here. And now that we're a family, a lot of my dreams and goals that I had at the beginning of the year shifted at that point and became more focused on my kids. And I think that's because my children had a developmental spurt mid-year. I had not counted on how ready they would be to absorb things like a sponge. And I realized, wow, I have this opportunity right now. My children just hit a new stride. And because, we're first-time parents, I don't know when those strides are going to be. And they might be, mid-year, where all of a sudden it's like, wow, all of a sudden my 10-year-old is ready for way more than he was at 9. And so I want to be free to pivot, obviously, with those things. And so, while a lot of things happened on my dream board, I feel like Elisha stuck a little more closely to mine. And I feel like I kind of adopted a new philosophy mid-year. So...
Yeah, it's funny. We probably should think of a different name than dream board, because I've gotten so used to saying it. But then when I hear you say it, and I remember hearing it for the first time, I'm like, that sounds. I do not want to have anything to do with that.
Yeah, there's a lot of controversy. Like Christians shouldn't have dream boards and all these things. But again, I do think it's how you use it. I don't think putting pictures up on a board as kind of a vision for the goal or vision or goal for the year, there's anything wrong with that. The Bible's very clear. And I'd love to use this verse that man plans his way. I think it's in Proverbs, but the Lord directs his steps. And I think we're called to plan our way and also have very open hands for the Lord to direct. And honestly, it's even really cool to look at my dream board this last year and be like, wow, I planned out, like I'm able to see the shift that the Lord changed in my heart and the shift that happened in our family by looking at where my mindset was at the beginning of the year and comparing it to where my mindset is at the end of the year. And if I had not put up all those pictures, I wouldn't have any context for that shift that the Lord made in me. Some things that I think are cool that I did end up doing on my dream board is I was able to read through the Bible in a year. I did it in I think like 4 months, and then was able to read through it again, the second half of it, a second time. And I just think that was a big blessing. That was something that happened well this year. I think I tried a few different programs and realized that they weren't the right fit for our family to run certain like ongoing monthly subscriptions. That just wasn't going to be a good fit for us because the demands that it placed on me and where it took my mindset. But, it's like a trial and error kind of thing. And I wouldn't have known if we hadn't tried. We went down to flip phones. That was huge.
Big time win.
We got a lot of help in our businesses. We hired a lot of key people this year. And I say a lot, but 2 mainly. I had down a little cartoon photo of a woman and a cartoon photo of a man because I needed more help and Elisha needed more help. And the Lord has so faithfully brought those people into our lives. And so it's really cool to see the things that have come to fruition, and also cool to see how the Lord directed our paths.
Yeah. I was asked by, I think, 2 different people this last week what I do for New Year's resolutions or how I set goals for a new year. And it was so fun for me to be so confident this year and being like, oh, well, I do. Again, I wish I didn't call it a dream board, but whatever. It is what it is.
You guys, what should we call it?
Yeah,
tell us in the YouTube comments.
I view it more of like, it's really like a North Star
piece of cardboard.
I don't know. I can't think of it. But it's exactly what you said, Katie, babe. You sit down, you analyze your thoughts, your goals, the direction you want to be going in, and then you find photos to really support and remind you of those things throughout the year. And I found that to be so much more helpful than setting very objective, quantifiable goals.
Like SMART goals, specific, measurable, time sensitive, all that stuff.
Yeah, because that's how, to me, not have been prior to this year, I was like, well, it's not a goal unless it's what you just said, a SMART goal. And it's got to be very quantifiable and measure. It's got to be all those things.
Just look it up, okay? Yeah. It's an acronym.
Yeah. And this was the first year that I, instead of setting these like hard deadlines and hard numbers, in like specific benchmarks, I decided to go in a direction. I was like, okay, I want to be going in this direction as a man. And it resulted in, I think, more personal growth than this year showed forth gave more personal growth to me than in any year prior, I would say. I don't know what you would say.
Oh, but big time.
And it also brought... time. And a lot of that came from, let's see, how do I say this? Because you have, like, as people, we have to do things. Like, I think as Christians, it's easy to over spiritualize things and be like, well, I want my goals just to be be closer to the Lord or to grow in my faith. And you say these things that are they sound great. Right? Those are really good things, but you don't really know what it means or what it looks like. And so break those down a little bit more practically to be like, well, how can I grow in my faith? Well, reading my Bible. So you say reading my Bible more, that doesn't sound very inspirational, but you find a photo of, I mean, and again, Pinterest or just Google images. And I found a photo of just like an awesome looking Bible on a rugged table.
Okay. If you guys are on YouTube, you can see the dream board.
That every time I saw that photo, I was like, oh my goodness, I love God's word. And it just was so much more motivation. Oh, yes.
Like, what are you doing?
Maybe are you going to hold it?
Yeah.
Why don't you hold it right? This is the worst. I regret doing this.
Wait, in front of my face?
No, but down, like drop it down to the ground.
They need to be able to see it, Elisha.
What are we doing?
Like this.
Okay. For like that camera?
Yeah, for the main one, right?
Okay, so they're not going to be able to see up close.
Oh, wow. He goes from not wanting to show it to wanting to show it up close.
This is the worst. I regret this so much. So this was my 2022 dream board. And so I've got like this awesome photo of a great looking wooden table and an awesome looking Bible that just inspired me to read the Bible more. Instead of making a goal to, read 6 chapters a day or to read the Bible 7 days a week, like I've done in years past, I had this, and it resulted in me reading the Bible far more consistently than I had with those previous hard goals, like hard deadlines and hard time frames. And then I found...
And I do think like those maybe specific measurable goals, like they have a place, they're just shorter term.
I think they're shorter term.
So It's kind of like, okay, over the next 30 days or over the next 90 days. They aren't year long. Like it's so hard to sustain something like that over a year, and you have no clue what is going to happen over a year.
That's exactly right.
You just do not.
Exactly. And so over the course of a year, you're going to get knocked off of your routine. Like you're going to get sick, your family's going to get sick. There's going to be crises that happen. You might, change jobs. You might have to move. There's so many unforeseeable things and even foreseeable things that just throw you off of your regiment and your normal routine. And it's at times like those that I think we often lose sight of where we wanted to be going in the first place. And we say, oh man, I got off my workout routine, so much for that. And so you just kind of throw in the towel and you're in no man's land in your fitness routine. Or man, I got off my reading the Bible in a year program. Now I'm just kind of in no man's land in studying God's word, and you don't know where to go. But if you've got for your annual vision more directions that you want to be going in, you can pick that up at any point. And I tell you, this served me so many times this last year, whether it's the middle of summer when you're traveling around to weddings and you're so busy and you like, I would come out to my office like on a Wednesday afternoon in the middle of summer when you feel like life's crazy, you're running around like a chicken with its head cut off and you don't know up from down. And then I would look at this and be like, that's right. This is the direction I'm going in. And it didn't beat me up And meaning like, I didn't look at it and be like, I'm such a failure. I was supposed to be doing all these things, because that wasn't the point. They weren't these hard goals. They were a direction I wanted to be going in.
He just wanted to be like holding his Bengal tiger in Pakistan.
Yeah. I think
Where's
that's like in
that?
Mongolia, but
Yeah, Mongolia. That's what I was looking for. What is this one?
I just wanted to go on more mountainous adventures.
That's a sweet mountain.
Yeah, I know, it's a sweet photo. And so anyways, so I've got photos that inspired me to eat healthier this year, to cook more, to practice my instruments more, to read more. I found a sweet photo of like this awesome library that just inspired me to read more. Some great hiking photos. So, and we hiked by more this year than any other year by far. Okay,
so I want to say a couple specific ones. So Elisha did get specific
on two of them, and I almost regretted doing that.
Yeah, he did. So, but this is the fun thing. Sometimes it's fun to be specific with certain goals. Not
but it's
all of them.
dangerous. It's dangerous.
Yeah, but it's pretty cool too. And so he put down a specific number of monthly listeners that he wanted on his Spotify account. And in November, right, you were like, this isn't going to happen. Like, I'm not going to hit this goal. He released a song for me, which I'd been begging him to do all year. Not like specifically, will you release a song for me, but to release the specific song that he wrote, which if you guys have not checked it out, that will also be in the description, because it is so sweet and you will cry on it. Everybody messages me and says they cry. And I've cried, I don't know, maybe 72 times every time he plays it for me. I cry. It is so sweet. Anyways, and in November, he hit that goal. So like right in the nick of time. And then down here in the corner, he has a photo. Something I like that Elisha did is he cut all the heads off. Well, a lot of the heads off. The guys in his photos, which makes it cool because you aren't picturing that person.
Yeah.
You know, I like how you did that.
Yeah, because that would be because it's hard to find some photos without there being like another person in it that you want to use. And so I was like, I'm just going to,
crop them in.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's cool. So down in the bottom right corner, he has getting belted with a blue belt in jiu-jitsu, which is a big goal. And he was like, it's not going to happen. It's not going to happen. Like, he didn't get a stripe on his white belt, which you have to get a certain number of stripes on your white belt before you get to move up to your blue belt, for like when? Since February to like November or July to November? It's a really long time.
Yeah, like, are you talking about
your last stripe?
Like my last stripe?
A big gap.
Yeah, so I exactly. Yeah, so I still didn't even have like my last stripe on my white belt back in November, I think.
In November.
And I was like, dang it, I should not have put that goal on there, because it's kind of, I don't know. It was kind of like outside of my control, because...
Yeah, you just have to, it's very subjective in jiu-jitsu.
Not very, but there is an element of subjectivity, and like when your professor thinks you're ready. Yeah.
Yes, it's all based on a professor. It's like when they grade an English paper and it's like they like what you said or they didn't. It's not like they grade math. You know what I mean? Where it's like you got it wrong or you got it right.
Yeah, it's not like this set of
It relies on the
moves
professor.
Yeah.
And because like I did a self-defense program that was a lot more like when you learn these moves, you move up to the next rank. And so it was very like cut and dry. But anyways, so this is different. And he got his final stripe that he needed in November. And 2 weeks later, wasn't it like 2 weeks later?
Yeah.
He belted up to his blue belt, which is huge. Because there have been months and months in between these stripes. To go from his last stripe to the blue belt right in the nick of time. And then we left to travel for the rest of December. So if he hadn't gotten it then, it wouldn't have happened.
Yeah. Anyway, so those were the two that were like,
those are pretty big.
That were specific.
I'm very proud of him.
That got a little dicey there at the end, but either way, they kept me going in those things. So it brought
these two little like musketeers playing chess.
Yeah. I did play more chess this year. So a lot of these things are very personal. It's not, they're like, what are you talking about? Like, chess, jiu-jitsu,
You got a lot of weapons this year.
Yeah, I did too. Cause like this time last year, I didn't shoot at all. And I didn't have any, whatever, the tactical stuff that guys get into.
Have 5 knives hanging off every part of his body.
Yeah. And so here in North Idaho, everybody's into that. And so I moved here and I was like, boy, I'm out of the loop here. And so I had to get all my guns and my knives and stuff and learn how to use them. Anyways, and I grew a ton in that area. I mean,
he's legit.
No,
now.
I'm not legit. That's the thing. It's like when you don't know, you don't know, And so I was like, oh, I'm going to do all that. And then you get into it and you're like, I don't know anything. And so I'm at that place where it probably is the first step of progress is realizing how bad you are at stuff.
But we went shooting for a date and Elisha just really knew what he was doing. He looked very cool.
Thanks. Yeah, we can put my dream board down, though. It's kind of getting personal. So the reason I'm okay sharing this is because this is not my upcoming dream board. This was last year's dream board. Next year's dream board, I'm going to keep very close to my chest, on what it is.
Yeah, he kept that one pretty secret all year.
Yeah. Anyways, I'm like pitting out over here and blushing. That felt a lot
middle
more.
button, some button.
A lot more like invasive than I was expecting it to. But even with those not silly things, but very like personal things like, oh, you want to get good at this hobby, or I think it's helpful to do that because if you don't put a specific thing down that you want to put your time towards, then something that maybe you don't care about is going to take your time. Mm-hmm. Anyways, like as people, we do more than read our Bible, pray, and eat. Like at least if we're going to be husbands and fathers, we need to do more than those things. And so be intentional about what those things are that you are doing with your time.
Yeah, because it's really easy to just by default let certain things happen.
So 2023, what are we looking forward to?
Okay, well, I don't know. What are we going to share?
Wow. I mean, I will say this. There are some things that we're really excited about with now that we're a family. Because, should we share?
No.
No, okay, not that. Okay.
I don't know. What can we say? We have so many big things happening right now, but it's like, everyone says that, but they're big for us.
Yes.
I feel like we're like jumping into the deep end in many ways this year, which praise the Lord for that's an opportunity for us. But maybe we could keep it to now that we're a family.
Sure. I know big picture wise, we are based off or compared to this time last year, we are way more, I'd say, family centric in our thinking than we were this time last year. We've obviously always wanted our family to be a priority and our marriage to be a priority. But I would say that has been multiplied. That desire has been multiplied in a big way.
Well, I think a lot of that has to do with a 5-year-old or almost 6 years old now is our oldest. And just when he hit 5.5, it was like, okay, we're out of the toddler season with our oldest too. Yeah. And they were just at a totally new stage of needing to be engaged and awareness and all kinds of things.
Yeah. So when I look at my dream board from last year versus what it's going to be more like this coming year is I think there's going to be a lot less. I put a lot of personal things on there, a lot of individualized goals and areas I wanted to grow in. And I'm grateful for those things. I think they were things that served our family well. That's why they were a win. It's not like I put things on there that would be taking away from our family, or none of the things on there got to a point where they were taking away from our family life. Hopefully you would feel that way. Yeah, for sure. And so, I don't want to have things on my dream board where I'm taking a 1.5 long trip, fly fishing trip in, Argentina. I want my goals to be aligned to the priorities that I feel like the Lord has given us, that, with marriage and family being up there. And so, however, when I look at this coming year, I'd say even the areas I want to grow in a practical way, like the skills I want to grow in, are a lot more family centric. They're a lot more in the context of doing it with my sons or doing stuff with you, doing stuff for, like I said, our family. So I'm really excited about that because I feel like the Lord just continues to turn my heart more and more towards, I think they're the priorities that He would have for me, towards my children, towards my marriage, even towards our local church. This is the most that we've been involved, committed to a local church. So I'm really excited about all those things.
Those are beautiful vagaries. Okay, can we tell them about 2 of the big changes that we're making with now that we're a family?
Sure.
Okay, so 2 big things that we're really excited about are, one, can I tell about Luke?
Sure. Yeah.
Luke, can I tell about you?
Yeah.
So Luke's been editing our podcast now for a year.
Yeah.
And he's been helping with various editing podcasts part-time, but he moved his family to Coeur d'Alene to work alongside us.
Yeah.
And we are just over the moon about that because we need the help. And Luke has just been a huge support to us throughout the last year, but getting to have his full and undivided attention on the projects that Elisha's working on and spearheading for Now That We're a Family is just really, really a big blessing. It's allowed me to be just barely involved, celebrity status. I just come sit down, talk for a little bit and leave. And all the other stuff is worked out by Elisha and Luke. So we're just really, really excited to have his family here and get to work together with them this new year. That's a big new thing for us.
Yeah, I'm so grateful for that too. I mean, Luke has already been a huge blessing to our family and to Now That We're a Family, working part-time for us. But the fact that he's willing and, that he's moving his family, his wife, his 3 kids from Sisters, Oregon to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho, it's really exciting for me. Like I respect him so much as a person. Obviously he's extremely skilled in his craft and the work that he does for us, but what more importantly in my mind is just who he is as a person. So I'm excited that I get to spend a lot of time with him. And it also, it's just fun to see the Lord's, providence and play out in different ways that are fun to see, like his providence always plays out. But it's fun to look back and I think of working at Sisters Coffee Company.
As a barista.
When was that? 4 years ago?
4 years ago.
4 years ago. And I worked there for 2 years. And that's where I met Luke, and we were both baristas there, and we talked a bunch. And I can remember at that point thinking, like, what am I doing right now? What am I doing with my life? Yeah, I mean, I was grateful for the job, but I loved working there. It was a blast. Like, it was a really fun job.
Third baby.
Yes, but just like when you have your third kiddo, and as a barista, I was like, this is kind of hard to provide for the family here. You start wondering, like, where am I going with life right now? And not only did that relationship, transpire there, well, the job itself was great. And then I was able to meet Luke there, who's now just doing amazing work with us and for us, which I'm grateful for. And I was also barista there with Zach Holmes, who ended up
produced all Elisha's music.
And he's also become extremely successful in Nashville. Like he's got songs on the radio consistently right now, like on Christian radio that he's produced. And he's working on stuff now that's like really big. It's crazy. I was talking to him the other day, and like he's working on the biggest projects right now, like in the Christian music industry. And I was like, no way. And that's another guy that I met working at the coffee shop.
It's just one of those things where you look back and you feel like this is a dead end. I don't know what I'm doing. And the Lord's like, I know what I'm doing, and because those connections that have been able to be valuable friendships to us, but then also partnerships have just like, it's just mind blowing, and that's just like at a coffee shop.
Yeah. And those are just the ones that we get to see and that we get to enjoy.
Yes. Yeah. And those are just the ones that we get to, you just really never know what the Lord has in store.
And that's why there is no coincidence. Like I do think that the Lord orchestrates everything. And a lot of times we get to enjoy seeing like where different things go. But
sometimes
even when we don't see it, we never see what
why.
the actual reasoning is and purpose was of it. And, maybe we'll see when we get to heaven. But anyways, yeah.
Yeah. So that's a really big one for us and moving forward. And then can I tell them about the other thing, the warehouse?
Sure.
Yeah. So that's another cool thing. We're moving out of our garage and into a warehouse. And
doesn't that sound awesome? Like what an upgrade.
Not all of our kids. Yeah. But it has been kind of a juggle to keep the house quiet. I mean, it's not a big deal for Elisha and I to like during the kids' nap times or after they go to bed, come out here and record the podcast. But whenever Elisha films something for Voteberg Music Academy or for the Growth Initiative or for other things that he has going on, I have to keep the house totally quiet with the kids. And we just feel like as the kids are growing up, we don't want them to feel like they have to be a part of the work that we're doing,
exactly.
and less and less, I should say, as they get older. We really don't want them to ever resent us or feel like, obviously kids need to be flexible with what their parents are doing for work, but it's one thing that we feel like moving forward, we'd like to keep our kids' schedule more on their own schedule and less reliant on, okay, daddy's coming home to film something, we need to keep it quiet.
Exactly.
So that's really exciting. We have to figure out how we're going to set up all the sets and but yeah, I don't know. That's really big for us because we've always done everything in our house, and it's going to be like a mini office space, and then hopefully a studio that you guys are going to see here on YouTube for the podcast, in the Get It All Done Club, and the Growth Initiative, for Voteberg Music Academy, for Now That I'm a Mother Health, for
all of our future
other YouTube channel, for anything else that we're working on. Lots of different random things. So anyways, we're excited. You guys will see that real time. But those are two things that for us, I feel like were big growth metrics, and kind of like made me gulp, like, are we going to do these things? But it just feels so right, and it feels like a big new step, and I'm glad Elisha's ready for it all, because just make it work out.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's cool. And a lot of that, is thanks to you guys, our listeners, like going back to little things like rating and reviews. Like the podcast has grown so much, YouTube has grown so much, like these things that have brought like-minded listeners and viewers together. And because now that we're a family community growing so much, we're able to expand. And not only are we able to expand, but we're able to expand where I'm not working or doing the heavy lifting. And so that's just really cool too, because you guys are able to support us bringing in help for Elisha instead of me trying to help him out with everything. So anyways, a big thank you to you guys for just being here and all your support over the last few years.
Yeah, well, I guess we should probably end with that.
Yeah. And on that note, we do have a couple more surprises for you guys, so stay tuned. And Lord willing, we'll be dropping those in January, February. I don't know. The new year is full of possibilities. We don't get bummed out till about March. I'm totally teasing. That's when the winter blues hit me, I feel like. January is like so full of vision, and March it's like, why is there still snow on the ground? I need some sun in my life.
Folks, thank you all so much. Welcome to 2023. And we'll talk to you next week.
Bye.
Bye-bye.